Don't look now, my friends, but that sun is shining bright and warm again. A sure sign that the worst days of winter are finally behind us. This is good, because like many of you, every square inch of available space that I have indoors has been populated by my favorite summer crops looking to get a head start. A combination of the plants being big enough, old enough, and the weather having warmed up enough means we really want to be getting these guys finally planted outside. And while these cucumbers here are a bit behind this year and not really ready for outside life, I do have much older, much bigger plants that are. But before we can take them and plant them outside in the garden, we need to set them up for success. Hi, I'm Jeff from the Ripe Tomato Farms, and today's video is all about hardening off our young plants and seedlings before planting them outside in the garden. Just what is it? Why do we do it? And of course, how do we do it? We'll cover the whole thing today because, quite frankly, these plants need it. So, grab a bevy, pull up a chair, we're almost at the finish line. If you've spent any time in the world of gardening around the season of spring planting, you'll probably have come across the term hardening off. If not, or maybe you can't quite wrap your head around the concept of what hardening off actually means, that's okay. The term hardening off simply refers to the 1 to 3 week transition period that gardeners use to acclimatize their young indoor plants to the drastic change in environmental conditions outside. It's a necessary step to toughen up these young, lush plants, prepare them for life in the great outdoors, and ensure their survival. Make no mistake though, germinating a bunch of seeds in the dead of winter and growing head start plants inside is just fun. We get to grow earlier than we should, and it's really nice to get a jump on the season when your summers are short, like mine are. But, like any good parent, all that work and sweat equity tied up in dozens or even hundreds of seedlings means you want to give all your plants the best chance of success. Like we said, we harden off all of our young plants to gradually acclimatize them to the outside life. But is it actually necessary? Are the outside conditions so radically different from those indoors that it really matters? Yes, they are. And there's 3 specific parameters that change the most that have the greatest effect on the plants. And the first of those is temperature. Colder, warmer, it doesn't matter. It'll never be the exact same temperature outside as what the plants are experiencing indoors. But more importantly is the change in temperature, specifically at night. This time of year can see a massive swing in the delta between the daytime highs and the nighttime lows, upwards of 10, 15, or even 20 degrees in a single 24-hour period. Getting your young plants used to sudden, drastic, uneven temperature swings, as well as a wider range both on the high and the low ends, is key. The second parameter is light intensity. The modern LED grow lights that we use today are awesome, no question. In fact, for growing inside, they're almost a necessity. But forever and always, they will pale in comparison to real sunlight. Sudden exposure to direct sunlight on lush young leaves that have never experienced it can be a disaster. It'll cause bleaching, wilting, sunburn, and even death. The sun is great, obviously, the plants need it, but they gotta get used to it. Hey, feel how still and calm it is in here. Even with the door off and all the vents open, there is zero air motion. Which brings us to our third and final environmental parameter, air motion. And sometimes outright wind. Trust me when I say this, even on the calmest days of the year, there is going to be infinitely more air motion outside than there is indoors. It's always there from every direction, and it's relentless. Plants that aren't conditioned properly and are not ready for that type of air exchange are going to wilt, burn, and even stress to the point of failure. Wind and exposure is a big one. It really is. It all sounds so harsh, and you may be wondering how it is that any plant survives outside at all. The answer is they're designed to. All plants, some more than others, form a clearish protective coating over their leaves known as a cuticle. This waxy coating is one of the plant's only defenses against temperature swings, UV radiation, and wind. It really is quite amazing. But in young plants never exposed to even a hint of real outdoor life, well, their cuticle is severely underdeveloped. And it's because of this, young plants without that hardening off process have very little protection to those 3 parameters we just mentioned. And when you break it down like that, it clears up all the confusion. Hardening off is just a gradual buildup of a young plant's cuticle over a relatively short period of time. It's a simple process, and now that we know what it is and why it is, we're ready to see it in action. The hardening off process of your young plants and seedlings begins about 1 to 3 weeks before you intend to plant them outside. If you're unsure of when that is, check out the video in the top right corner for an easy tutorial. Now, as you get started, you're going to find that some plant varieties harden off much faster than others. And plants that are less lush, possibly younger, possibly smaller, well, they can harden off quicker as well. No doubt the current weather conditions outside do play a part in this, but generally speaking, most plants can be hardened off in 2 weeks or less. From inside to outside is an onslaught of stress to an indoor plant. I can't say this enough, this process has to be gradual. As such, try not to pick massively windy, rainy, or days with a huge temperature delta to what the plants currently experience. Everything is gradual, especially at first. Calm, cloudy days are best, and in the beginning, just bring your plants out for 2 to 4 hours at a time. If it's super bright out and that sun is intense, pick a shady spot at first, followed by some dappled sun on days 3 or 4. After those 3 or 4 days, start bringing the plants out for a little bit longer. Couple hours after sunup, followed by bringing them inside a couple hours before sundown. Everything gets gradually longer and more intense, but use your better judgment. By day 7 or 8, you can expose most plants to full sun, and then by day 10, they can be outside from sunrise to sunset. The later days seem to move more quickly, and by the 2-week mark, all of your plants should be fully hardened off. Now, if your weather turns and you're unable to plant safely right on day 14, don't stress. All of this is happening gradually, with loose, forgiving windows of time. Pick your spots and just keep hardening off and exposing the plants to outdoor life until the weather turns in your favor. If it takes an extra week or so, it's not a big deal. And although the process is quite simple and straightforward once you get into it, some very important points have been covered. Let's recap them now to make sure it all sinks in. For those growers like me in temperate regions with a limited summer, we start many of our crops early indoors to get a head start. It works beautifully to get a jump on the season and to expand our growing windows, but it also necessitates another step in the process: hardening off. Broken down to its core, hardening off is simply defined as the gradual acclimation of young plants from indoors to outside. It can take anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks depending on the crop itself as well as your climate. Digging down a bit deeper, we specifically harden off our young plants due to 3 parameters that are massively different between inside and outside: fluctuating temperatures, increased light intensity, and infinitely more air motion than young seedlings have ever experienced inside. Like we said, the process is simple, starting from just a few hours a day away from wind, away from direct sun, all the way to nearly all day full exposure. Fast forward about 2 weeks, and really all plants in all conditions should be sufficiently hardened off. As much as starting all those seeds early indoors is an annual rite of passage for us gardeners, so is the gradual hardening off of those subsequent young seedlings each spring. The methodical acclimatization and transition of our Head Start plants from their early cushy life indoors to the gradual big outside world is one of the most important steps to ensuring a successful garden. Hopefully today we've outlined the steps in such a way that it not only makes sense, but it also shows that it's an easy, albeit important, endeavor. Hey, happy growing, guys, and I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.